So what I wanted to talk about today is what makes a good video game. So, oh, so before I get into this, I want to talk about why people think that Red Dead Redemption 2 has a better story than Grand Theft Auto 5. So, one thing that I noticed Grand Theft Auto 5 was criticized for is that it's anticlimactic, and what this means is that it's just a bunch of missions put together, and they don't really have any relationship between each other. While with Red Dead Redemption 2, it's the missions are more interrelated, and a good example of this is I think a good example of this is when, like, Arthur and his gang, they blow up a bridge. So what this does is that it makes so the train can't get through the bridge, so it has to stop. And that's when they go and rob the train. And this has repercussions, like, pretty much throughout the rest of the story, because like the law comes after them, and things like really start to reach a climactic point. Like their lives will never be the same again. They've committed this crime, and they need to constantly be vigilant. And I think this just sets a different tone for the rest of the story. While with Grand Theft Auto 5, it doesn't really have anything like this. Like, once the mission's over, you just have to move on to the next mission, and it's not hugely related to, I guess what I'm saying is that there's no like the traditional storytelling isn't really existent in Grand Theft Auto 5, because there's no gradual build-up of tension that I think Red Dead Redemption 2 has. So I also want to talk about The Last of Us series. It's a video game series about a zombie apocalypse, and what the consensus online seems to be is that the first game is better than the second game. There's two parts to this series, and everyone's saying that part 1 is better than part 2, and the reason for this is that I think what a lot of people liked about the first game is that it builds this father-daughter relationship between, like, Joel and Ellie, and what everyone hated about part 2 is that they completely killed off that relationship, because what happens is that Joel pisses some people off in the first game, and they want revenge against him, so they kill him. This character named Abby just kills him with a golf club to the head, and so everyone online thought that this was a very poor decision for the story, because, like, what Joel is like this survivor guy. He's survived so so many horrible things, and he has such great survival instincts that got him through the first game. And to see him die like this is a complete injustice. Because I want to explain to you what I'm talking about, and I want to provide an example from the first game. In the first game, Joel and Ellie are driving to like somewhere that the plot is leading them, and they come across this guy who appears to be wounded, and he begs them to stop the car and help them, and Ellie's like, stop the car, he's hurt, he needs help. And Joel's like, he ain't hurt. And right when he says that, the guy pulls out a gun. Like the guy who appears to be wounded, he pulls out a gun and starts shooting. And because Joel reacted just in time, and he like swerved the car, he saved them. The bullet would have hit either Joel or Ellie, and one of them would have died. But because Joel is like this survivor, and he understands like human nature, he swerves the car just in time. So what this shows to me is that Joel is definitely a survivor, and I think how he, if you were to kill off Joel, I think that what needs to happen is that the enemy needs to outsmart him. Like, it takes a genius. It takes a genius to outsmart someone like Joel, and I think if you could show that these villains are very cunning, deceitful people who know how to kill even the fittest of the survivors, then I think maybe you could justify killing off Joel. But so I want to talk about how Joel died. So what happens is Joel and his brother are being chased by zombies, and some people offer them safety in their gates, and the problem with this is that Joel is too trusting. He knows how humans have become because of the zombie apocalypse, and he still just he didn't question them. He didn't provide any background checks. He just trusted them, and he let down his guard. And what happens is that they invite him into their base or house, and he completely lowers his guard. He doesn't stay by the door. He doesn't stay by the windows or anything. He just strolls into the middle of the room, and so I believe that characters are meant to always be true to their nature and true to the characterization that they've built throughout the series. So when Joel does this, when he lowers his guard, it goes against the character that he's built throughout the first game. Joel's a survivor, and he's very reluctant to trust anyone because he knows that everyone just wants to look out for themselves. And so this character just dies off in the second game, and he becomes this weak, complacent, overly trusting guy. And if they just stayed true to who he was in the first game, then he would have been fine. So what I think makes a good video game is when there are complications in the relationships and in the overarching story, and there's like a and what they're doing throughout the story is kind of resolving that conflict. So in The Last of Us, they find out that Ellie is immune to the zombie virus, and they want to take her to this group of scientists and doctors, and they want to learn what makes her immune to the virus so they can possibly cure the virus. And so what they do throughout the game is that they travel through post-pandemic America. And so what they're doing throughout the game is contributing to resolving the conflict, the zombie apocalypse, like all the killing zombies and sneaking past like corrupted human bases, and just everything is contributing towards resolving this conflict. And so I want to talk about the conflict between Joel and Ellie, and why this conflict was so important why this conflict and tension was so important towards making this a good story. So I think a big part of what keeps audiences engaged is that they want to know how the relationships turn out in the end. And so in my series, The Alien Annihilators, Kenneth and Cleo aren't even really friends. They have different friends, and they don't really talk much. And when the alien threat puts them together, I think this starts to get audiences to wonder how their relationship is going to turn out, because how can they fall in love if they live such different lives and they don't really have any association with each other? So how can they fall in love? And I think this is a big part of what keeps audiences engaged, because they want to find out how the relationship turns out in the end, and the reason why they fall in love. So I want to talk about Joel and Ellie's relationship at the beginning of the first game. At the beginning, Ellie is like this moody, bratty teenager, and she has like an attitude, and she's always making snide remarks about Joel. And Joel sees her as like pretty much like baggage. He doesn't really care about this girl. He just wants to carry out the favor that a friend gave him, which was taking Ellie to the Fireflies and seeing what makes her immune to the zombie virus. So by the end of the game, their relationship evolves into like this father-daughter relationship. What happens is that Joel can't really live without the sense of family and companionship that Ellie gave her. He kind of sees her as family and like a daughter to him. And so when the Fireflies want to kill her, because it's the only way to mass produce a vaccine for the virus, and Joel couldn't allow this because she's like a daughter to him, and he'd do anything to protect her. So he breaks into the surgery room and he kills the doctor. He kills the doctor in there, and he breaks Ellie out of the facility and kills a bunch of people in the process. So basically what I'm saying is that if you can get a relationship to evolve throughout a story, then you can really keep audiences engaged and interested and make them want to read it through to the end, because that's what makes it a good story.